Good morning, everyone. How you doing? So glad you feel like I need to turn this way a little bit this morning. I got a couple of announcements. If we haven't met, my name is David, by the way. I'm the lead pastor here. We're so glad that you guys are here. We really want to be able to minister to you, technically pray for you. One way to help us do that is to connect with us. There's two ways you can do that. If you're in the room, and it's always better to be here, in front of your chair, there's a connection card. You can grab that, fill that out, bring it over to Connection Point. We have a small gift for you, just saying thanks for joining us. And then, or if you would prefer, if you're online or if you're in here in the house, you can take your phone out and text the word connect to 763-317-0866 to help us get to know you and be able to support you and let you know what's happening. So we appreciate you sharing that. Got a couple of things that are happening this month, which is crazy. It's almost half over. I don't know where the month's gone. But a couple things is, one is we have our Thanksgiving dinner. We've done that almost every year. When we went to do services, we can't do it after services, which we normally did. So what we decided is that on the 24th, November 24th, we will have the dinner that evening from 5:30 to 7. If you're able to come, we'd really appreciate that. This is a great opportunity to invite your friends. The food, if you've never been to one of our Thanksgiving, is amazing. It's a full-blown Thanksgiving dinner, and this is a great opportunity to invite your friends. Couple things we need. One is we're still looking for some servers, some tear-down setup people, and then also if you are able to bring either a salad or you'd be interested in being able to do some sweet potatoes or a dessert. There's a sign-up sheet out in the lobby. You can get involved in that, write that down, let us know that's happening. Really appreciate that. This is just a fun time, and you won't want to miss, especially inviting your friends. The other thing we do during Thanksgiving is we put together what we call our Thanksgiving boxes. These are full-blown Thanksgiving meals that we give to people. So two things. If you are interested in one of those, if you're in need of that, please let me know. Please let Mark Silva know. Don't be afraid. We want to make them available to you. And so that'd be awesome. The second thing is we're also looking for ingredients on that. So if you'd like to donate some turkeys, and there's some other things that are still in need, we'd appreciate that. We'll be putting them together very soon. So I just wanted to let you know that's happening. Okay. I have been really thankful for some of the testimonies that I'm getting back, some of the word that I'm getting back to you guys about this series. That's always encouraging to me to know that God's working through that and helping you along in this Money Works message series. I was thinking about this. I've been teaching Stewardship Month for over 29 years, I think. Every year we've taken 1 month. Normally we used to take January as designated as Stewardship Month. We just talk about that month, really hit it hard, so we don't have to always talk about money, those kind of things. This year we decided to change it, obviously, from January to November. That's working great. And so I hope that you're getting something out of it. When I've done this, again, 29 years or more, and every time I go through it, it's helpful to me. I'm constantly trying to say the same things in a different way, but it's good to remember some of these principles and the way to manage money and those kind of things, and it's a good opportunity to sort of focus on our stewardship, money stewardship, and when we make some decisions and some adjustments and all that kind of thing. I don't know where you are personally, but I want to encourage you that as you look past in your past, whether it was yesterday or years ago, and you see failure, that's normal. Everybody has that. I want to encourage you not to allow those mistakes in the past to basically carry on through to the present. Don't let that, failure sort of decide who you are, what you're going to do. The cool thing about God is that today's a new day and you can start over. So whatever that is in the past, acknowledge it, recognize it, and then make changes and get going today, because that's the best way to make a better tomorrow for yourself. So if you're sick and tired of struggling with all of the kind of finances and struggling with that, the good news is that God is in the business of helping us change. He's given us truths. He's helped us implement those truths, and they really are life-changing. I can't tell you specifically. I actually could, but it's not. I don't want to do that because calling people out. But there's been a lot of people in our church that have really valued and gotten a lot out of these stewardship months. I know there's several people that have told me that they're actually able to retire because we talked about this a number of years ago, and if they can do it, you can do it too. So I just want to encourage you on that. Now, in this series, we've talked about 3 big ideas, And these are financial big ideas, and if you can grasp them, you can kind of make them your own, get them deeply in your heart. They will change the way you manage money. And so let me give you those. We've been talking about it. Let me kind of review them. So the first one we talked about, the one that you'll hear a lot today, is that we are stewards and not owners. And that's true whether you're a believer or not. It has nothing to do with whether you're a believer. The fact of the matter is that whatever size pile you have, whether it's small, medium, or large, or whatever, and the stuff that you have control over, when you die, you'll have to leave it here. Somebody else, after you're gone, gets to basically deal with the other stuff that you had. It'll be transferred. Why? Because we're not owners. While we're here, we get to be stewards. They're on loan from God. The Bible says that any good thing that comes down from the Father above. So if you think of anything that's good and life-giving in your life, God's the source of that. And he gives us these things for us to be able to honor him and use to take care of our family and those kind of things. It is God's, God owns them, and they're on loan for us. So we are stewards, managers, and not owners. Second thing we talked about that Jesus taught is that where our treasure goes, our hearts follow. And we often talk about why, I always invest where my heart is. That's probably some truth to that, but the way we're wired is that whatever you invest in, whether you start investing in time, you're going to care about that thing. If you invest money in that thing, you're going to start caring about that thing. Why? Because where your treasure goes, your heart follows. That's just the way we're wired. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just what we are. The wise thing to do is to realize that's true. And then being true, what we want to do is we want to use that to our advantage. We want to be wise people. So because whatever we invest our time in, whatever we invest our money in, that thing begins to shape us and decide who we are. So let's be wise. Let's make sure that we're investing our time and our money in the things that we know are matter, so that we don't sidestep other things. And so because whatever we invest in, our heart follows. Okay. The third one is that either you will master your money or your money will master you. And that's true for everybody as well. Either you're going to basically be defined by getting more money, the size of your bank account. You look at your bank account and you say, well, I guess I'm important or I'm not important and that kind of thing. You're going to spend your life chasing after money. That's an option. But what that means is that's become your master. It's the thing that's defining you. And either your money will master you or you will master it. So the other option is you could say, okay, money is a tool. I'm a steward of it, not an owner. So I'm going to look at all the resources, whatever pile I have, and say, God, this is my job to honor you and use this to get things done rather than it moving me. Does that make sense? Jesus said it this way. He said, you can't love God and money at the same time. You can't serve money and God at the same time. So you have to choose. Everybody will choose. And so we're stewards and not owners. Where our treasure goes, our heart follows. And either you will master your money or your money will master you. Now, I've been kind of hinting at this, but there's a message, a sermon by a guy named John Wesley, and he lived in the 1700s. And this one message I hear all the time. It doesn't matter what denomination you are. It's one of those messages that kind of have borne the test of time, and all kinds of churches have picked it up, which is kind of cool. And in that message, he sums up the whole thing. So you don't have to go and read it or listen to it. I'm going to tell you what it is. Okay. So he sums up the whole thing by 3 statements. He said, as you look at yourself as a steward, do 3 things. He said, earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can. And this is really, I think, the heart of it. I'm going to talk today about the second one. I'm going to talk a little bit about the first one, but mostly about the second one, save all you can. We'll talk next week about the give one. I don't know about you guys. I love technology. I can geek out on it all the time. I got to be careful because I always want the newest and the greatest when you don't need it. The new iWatch, got to get, new phone. I've curtailed that because it's expensive, but I love that stuff. I love the technology. I can geek out on it. I think it's super helpful, and I find it useful. I remember, I'm old enough now to remember when there was actually no cell phones. There really was a time, guys, when you're younger, there was no cell phone. In fact, we had these things called pagers, which were really annoying because they'd go off and drive you crazy, but we had those. And then eventually the first cell phone came out, and I remember we called it a bag phone. Anybody remember that? It was this bucket, there's like this bag that had this huge, it was kind of heavy, had this huge battery in it, and then you kind of pulled out the handle and you'd talk on it, and you could sort of talk to people because there wasn't a lot of people to talk to, but it was a bag phone because it was this huge battery you got to carry around. Well, today, we have more technology in our cell phones than they had when they went to the moon the very first time. Isn't that crazy? They had basically a calculator, which was really glorified at that time, but our technology is significantly more than that. We also have today this thing called AI. Now, somebody has said, I don't know what that is. AI is artificial intelligence, and if you don't know what it is, you will, because it gets taken over everything, and almost everything has something in AI. I love that. It's super helpful. I use it, but we also have to be careful because it can actually shape the way people think depending on how it's programmed, so we got to be careful of that. But I love this stuff. However, I've noticed that there is some negative side effects to all of this. One of them is that it has created a desire, or better, an expectation in us for instant gratification. We don't like to wait anymore. We want to get it now, and we want to have it now. One place where this has showed up is in our relationships. We have this thing called texting. If you know me, I don't do it very well. It drives me crazy, but it's kind of the thing, right? And so when we text somebody, did you know that on your phone, and some phones, it'll actually tell you when it got read. So I can text you, and then it'll tell me when you read it, and we figure you better do that within a couple of minutes. You know, we don't want to wait. We just want it now. We have these things called credit cards and payday loans and Amazon, which I all like. But because of those, they have created an expectation that we should be able to get what we want anytime we want it right now. Yeah, I love the convenience of it. But the problem that we have as we look at managers of money or stewards of money is that in John Wesley's first two statements, that we want to earn all you can and you want to give all you can, instant gratification is an enemy to those, because both of them take time. It takes time. You got to get to work. You got to go do things. You got to earn money. It takes time to save all you can. You got to do something to that. Instant gratification makes that very, very hard. We don't like to wait for purchases. So instead of saving and then spending, you can actually do that. But instead, because we want to get that credit card out, and we just swipe it and we can get it right now. The problem is we don't look at, as we talked last week, about the long-term consequences, which is a big deal. I'm watching, you probably have seen it on the TV, where they have payday loans. I mean, you got your paycheck coming, but it hasn't come soon enough because you want to buy the thing today, and your paycheck's not going to be until next week. So what do? You can go and get a payday loan and get it now, but you still have to pay that back, and it costs you money. Don't do it if you don't have to. Okay? So it's just saying that what has happened is we've been conditioned into a instant gratification, I want it today, and I want it now kind of mentality. There's okay with some of that. I love Amazon. They can get me stuff within 24 hours sometimes. It's crazy. I don't know how they do that, but I like that. But it can be a problem. Okay, you hear what I'm saying? Let me give you an example. According to an article I found, 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. What that basically means is that if they lost their paycheck this month, they would not be able to pay their rent. They would not be able to pay their mortgage where they are next month. They just couldn't do it. And I want you to think about 76%. That means if you're in a row of four people, some of you are the same, but if you're in a row of four people, that means in those four people, 1 out of 4 are in that situation. 1 out of 4 is living paycheck to paycheck because if they're just one disaster away. And, probably most of us got ourselves into that kind of situation because we bought more car than we should have. We bought more house than we should have. We bought, way more coffee, that's me, than we should have, that kind of thing. And what happens is we take our credit card and we look at it and we make it and we look at it as if it's our emergency fund. And the cost is huge. It'll keep digging you in a hole. What we want to do is we want to earn all we can. We want to save all we can. Now, let me say one thing. There are some people who live paycheck to paycheck that are, in my estimation, superheroes. They're single parents who have maybe 1, 3 kids, I don't know, and they're raising them up and they got a college degree, mom or dad, but no one's hired in that field, or they're having a hard time getting the job that they really wanted because, man, they're so busy dealing with it, and they're just living and they're just making it every month. And I just want you to know that I get that. I'm not talking about you. That's a situation, and I just want you to know that you are a superhero if you're getting that done for your kids. Way to go. This is not a message to shame or guilt you at all. If you're working hard, and this is not to, feel bad about yourself. What I want to help you do is I want you to change. I want you to see these things. And let's be honest, if we talk about this, the majority of us are not in that place of being paycheck to paycheck because we just can't do anything else. There are some, but not everybody. So it's wise to earn all you can, and it's wise to save all you can, because saving for tomorrow will change your life. It'll change your life. So what I want to do is just kind of beat this into us, okay? In a loving way, but beat this into us, okay? And I got a couple of proverbs that I want to show you, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this. The first proverb that has to do with save all you can, Proverbs 21:20 says this: "The wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get." Now, Proverbs is a wisdom literature. It's really not about what's right and wrong, good and evil. It's in there, but it's not really the major thing. Proverbs is there to help us learn best practices. It's help us learn how to get the most out of life and succeed, to be the head, not the tail, those kind of things. And Proverbs oftentimes contrasts different kinds of people. In fact, mostly it's 3. There are some exceptions, but it's either 2 of them or 3 of them. Let me say what I mean. So when they talk about it, they say, okay, there's these wise people, okay? Then there's these ignorant people, or you see in Scripture people who don't have understanding. They'll say they lack understanding. So that's that category. And then there's the last one called fools. So wise, ignorant, or don't understand, or fools. There's also a special kind of fool, when we talk about money, called the sluggard. So there's the fool, and he's got an extra little foolishness in there called the sluggard. Sluggard is someone who doesn't want to work, someone who basically will just stay on the couch or whatever that is. So listen, it's good to be wise. It's okay to be ignorant as long as you don't stay that way, and it's bad to be a fool. Don't be a fool. So Proverbs 21:20 says that wise people have wealth and luxury. Now, how did they get that? Well, we see that in the contrast. So he says, this is what wise people have. And then the contrast is, don't be the fool, because they don't have this, right? You get the idea? So it says, wise people have wealth and luxury, but a fool does what? Spends everything they get. They don't save anything. So I looked this up in the Hebrew, and basically that means they live paycheck to paycheck. Actually, that's not true. I just made that up, but you're trying to get the idea across, right? A fool is someone who spends everything they get. It is foolish to do that. The wise have saved. They save all they can. The fool spends whatever that comes into their hands. Now, I am your pastor, and I really do love you guys. I am fighting for you. Some of you are kind of wondering right now. This is not a series I do just so that we get more money for the church. I hope it happens. I hope that you guys do better and better, and we can give more because we can get more stuff done. We can reach more people. That would be awesome. But that's not the motivation. The motivation is I want you to be the head, not the tail. I want you to be financially free. I don't want you to be a fool. So that's where my heart is. Let me show you another one. Proverbs 6:6-8 says this: "Take a lesson from the ant, you lazy bones. Learn their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work," they have no force that's making them go to work, "they labor hard all summer and gather food for the winter." Did you see this? This Proverbs basically takes and talks about our 2 things. Earn all you can and save all you can. They say, listen, earn all you can. Stop being a sluggard. Get off the couch. Get to work, right? He said, no one has to, if you're wise, you're like an ant, no one has to motivate you. You're going to go get it. You're not going to sit around. You're not lazy. You're going after it. You're going to earn all you can. Then it says, save all you can, because that's what the ant does, be smarter than an ant. There is something that the ant knows that the fool doesn't. the ant knows that winter is coming. It's coming tomorrow. It will happen. It's just a matter of time. Now, we in Minnesota know what winter's like. So this is not so much that, it's just a season. It knows that there is going to be a season in the future that's winter, not good. You can't go get food. It's going to happen. So you should plan for it. Ants know that it is wise to earn all you can when you can get to work and save all you can, because there's a time where something's going to break. There's something's going to go wrong, something that you didn't plan for and see, so you need to save when you can. You get this? Be smarter than an ant. So I want to bring your attention to one more. There's a parable that Jesus gave. It's in Matthew chapter 25, and the parable is known as the parable of the talents. Now, just before that, Jesus actually teaches another parable, and they're like taught in the like one right after another, so they're reasoned to connect. And Jesus is basically telling us how the kingdom of God works, how life works. And so the parable just before that is called the parable of the 10 virgins. Basically, virgins just means unmarried girls. And so the main teaching point of this parable, I won't tell it to you, you can go read it yourself, but it basically is prepare because the day's coming. It's that you need to prepare because Jesus is coming back. You don't know when, but when he comes back, you don't want him to find you lazy and unprepared. Okay, so Jesus teaches that. And then he launches right away into the parable of the talent. So let's look at that. We'll walk through it and see what Jesus has to say. So Matthew 25, 14 through 15, here's what it says. Again, Jesus is speaking. Again, the kingdom of heaven. So again, by using again, he means, I just told you this parable. I want to tell you another one. They kind of go together. Get it? So again, the kingdom of God can be illustrated by a story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing in proportion to their abilities. And then he left on his trip. Okay, so kind of get to what's going on, kind of bring it into modern kind of our time frame. There is a business owner, and he's going to go off somewhere, I don't know, maybe another country. He's going to start a new business. We don't know why, but he's going to be gone for a while, and he needs someone to manage the business back here. And so basically he calls his direct reports. He says, you guys are going to manage things while I'm gone. And so he gives one guy 5, one guy 2, one guy 1, and says, you guys are in charge. I want you to manage my stuff while I'm gone. I'll be back eventually, but it's going to be a while. And so the businessman charges them, listen, you manage this according to my goals and my principles and what I want happening. Okay? Now, a talent here is, which is what it would say instead of bags of silver, it says talent. That's just a measure of money. So bags is actually not a bad translation. What I found out is that one talent, is worth about 6,000 denarii. That was their money. I have no idea what that actually is worth, but it wasn't one coin. That's what I'm trying to get at. Some versions will say, hey, they gave out 5 bags of gold, 2 bags of gold, 1 bag of gold. The word is actually talent there, but the thing that it wants to get us is that one guy, because I always thought that one guy had 1 coin, I'd be afraid to lose that too. That's not what happened. He had a bag of coins, okay? So he had a bag, the other guy had 2, the other guy had 5, right? So it goes on. Matthew 25, 16 through 18. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver, watch this, began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. All right, let's break this down. Okay, one of the things that this idea is, Jesus is trying to get to us is that we are stewards and not owners. So the money that we have, we're supposed to manage it in a way that's good. We're supposed to manage it in God's way, for his values, take care of our family, take care of ourselves, and bless other people and invest in the mission, right? So these employees knew that the owner had given them this money to manage for that reason. They were to manage the owner's money to put it to work. He gave it to them not for them to sit on, not to spend it whatever they wanted, but to put it to work. 2 of them did really well. They did amazingly well. And then, and so let me show you in the master comes back, and let me show you what he says. Matthew 25, 19 through 23. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they used the money. Okay, reckoning day. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward and with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Let's go party. Way to go. Good job. The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to what? Invest, and I have earned 2 more. The master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I'm going to give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate. Good job, right? 2 guys. They did an amazing job. They realized that they were stewards, that they had a job to do. They put that money into work so that that money would make more money, and the owner was like, way to go. Guess what? You get more. We're going to let you have more control, some more stuff. You're going to be able to manage more stuff because I know you're faithful, except for the last guy. So let me show you. Matthew 25, this is what happened to him. 25, 24 through 30 says this. Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, watch this. I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I thought, what is that? Well, there's 2 ways, right? You are the farmer who basically sows the seed and then reaps the harvest, or you're the guy who helps the guy who does that. So what he's saying is that this owner was smart enough not only to maybe have his own farm, but he was also investing in other people's farm so he could cultivate, or he could gather some money out of that guy's farm, and then that guy won. You get the idea? Okay? So he goes on. He says, I knew you were a guy that does this. And then he says, I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's the money back. Okay, this guy missed the entire point. So, master says this. This is harsh. The master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, then why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. You get it? Then he orders, take the money from this servant and give it to the one who has 10 bags of silver. Because why? Because to those who use well what they've been given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away from them. And then it says, now throw this useless servant into the outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I'm like, man, that last one's pretty harsh. I think what Jesus is trying to get at here is that this second or the third servant, the third employee, didn't really understand his job. In fact, he was in a really wrong relationship with the master. He's like, you're not part of us. You're not part of the team. You didn't do what you're supposed to do. You're fired. That's kind of what he was saying. Now, the implication is interesting. God has given us resources. Some of us have a little pile. Some of us have a medium pile. And a few of us have a big pile. Doesn't matter. Pile has absolutely nothing to do with it. God has given us all resources that belong to him and is on loan to us to do some stuff that he wants us to do. We are stewards, not owners. God expects that we take whatever he's entrusted to us, manage them, and get an increase. It's not okay to do nothing. It's not okay to spend it all on yourself. God's given you resources so that you can take care of your family, you can take care of yourself, you can bless other people in need, and you can give to the mission. That's what he's given us for, so that we can help his things get done in the world. And then Jesus says this, to those who use well what they've been given, even more will be given to them, and they'll have an abundance. This is not God will make you rich. This is God knows that he can funnel more resources through you because you're going to do the right thing with them. And so he can entrust you with more. Faithfulness means using whatever God has given to you and multiplying it and using it to advance the kingdom and take care of people. Now, don't miss this. The third guy was called a wicked and lazy servant. Those are pretty harsh words. At the end, he says he's useless servant. He's useless is probably a better way. This guy's not only lazy, right? He's wicked. You're not only a sluggard where you wouldn't get and do something, get to work and make something out of that money. You're not only lazy, you're wicked. You just thought about yourself. Faithful stewardship, people who are faithful stewards work hard to multiply what they've been entrusted, to use it, earn all they can, save all they can, eventually give all you can. So I want to give you two thoughts about the way money works. I want to talk about, first one's kind of obvious, how we make money, and then the second one maybe not so obvious, but they're both in this story. The first way people make money is what all of us do, we typically do. We earn it, right? We go get a job, and we do whatever that job is, and they trade our effort for money. God has given us abilities and gifts and our bodies, and we can use all of that and go to work. And we can work 40 hours, we can work 60 hours. Hopefully you don't do that too often, but whatever it is, maybe every 2 weeks, maybe every week, maybe every month, I don't know what it is, but you put in the time, you work hard, you use your gifts and your talents, and then you get turned that in, your effort turned into money. You get paid, and you can earn money that way. That's the way most people earn it. But I want to talk about a second one. By the way, it's good not to be a sluggard. The second way that people make money is they actually put their money to work. That's when your money is making money. This is another way. This is something that some people don't really think about. And it's exactly what this parable has saying. He's saying that the two guys, they took it, invested it, made more money. Their money made money. Jesus essentially said, these two guys were faithful, way to go, we're celebrating you. In fact, in Matthew 25:26 again, the servant who received the 5 bags of silver, he did what? He invested the money and earned 5 more. This is where, I don't know, he probably had a job. Maybe the job, I don't know what he did for, the 40 hours a week, but we know that he took that money and he invested it so that money would make money. The two faithful servants understood that they're not owners, that they're stewards. And knowing the master's values and purposes, they took that money and put it to work. When God trusts you with something, you have a choice. Kind of 2 choices, really. They come in different forms, but they're basically 2 choices. What you can do, and what many people do, is then they receive it, they just say, this is all mine, I'm spending it, and they spend it all. They just spend it all every month. And remember the proverb, the fool spends all they have, but a wise person has wealth and luxury. Don't be a fool. So the other choice is that you spend some, that you save some, and that you give some. And that way, you become wise. If you invest wisely, you might actually take what you had and you may actually double it, or you get more than you have. You can take some of that savings and put it to work so the money makes money, and then you're also making money through your job. Very smart way to go. And God may look at you when you do that. He may look at you and say, you have been faithful with what I've given you. Way to go. I can trust you with even more. You can work for money, and you can make money work for you. So how do you do that? Well, this is where I got to put my disclaimer in, okay? I am a pastor, not an investment expert by any stretch. I tried that for a while. There's no way I could do everything I do and pay attention to all of that. I was like, nope, not a good idea. So you might need to find somebody that can help you figure that out. But as a pastor, here's what I can do. I can suggest some of these principles and help try to teach them so that you can get them in your life and you become a better steward than you are yesterday. We're already talked about a few of these things that we need to do as we look at our stewardship and what can we do. Some of us, perhaps, we need to develop some self-control. We talked about this last week. Self-control is doing what's right even when you don't feel like it. Self-control on the finances side helps us say no today, save it, so that we can say yes later. That takes self-control. Instant gratification will kill you on this. because it takes time. Then maybe for some of us, we need to create a spending plan. We're going to decide where our money goes before it goes. Because if you ever notice that your money always goes somewhere, whether you like it or not. So you might as well be smart about it and say, okay, I want to tell it where to go before I get it, because that's a spending plan. And that way you can look at it and you can manage stuff and you can take some, you can spend a little more here, spend less there, all that kind of thing. So maybe we're going to make a spending plan. So some of us, we're going to need to include, we need to get on our emergency fund. That's basically where some of your money goes into a fund that you don't spend until bad things happen, and you try not to spend it even when bad things happen, but you do when you have to. This is so critical because we live in a fallen world with fallen people and fallen things. Things are going to break. It's inevitable. You're not going to know it. You're not going to see it, but it's going to happen. And if you don't have an emergency fund, your emergency fund becomes your credit card. Bad idea. Dave Ramsey calls the emergency fund, he says, you're Murphy-proofing your life. There's a law out there, Murphy's Law. Have you heard of that? Murphy's Law basically says anything that can go wrong will go wrong. He's got to be ready for it. That's just smart. This has nothing to do with faith or the lack of faith. This has to do with wisdom. The realization that we live in a world where stuff breaks and things happen and you can't see it. So what we need to do is we need to create an emergency fund to protect that, because we know, not if, it's when. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to break. So you create an emergency fund so that your emergency fund doesn't become your credit card, and you can take care of it. So, the first savings task is to get that emergency fund going. Now, when I teach this, I've done it long enough. I know there's a bunch of you that are saying something. You're thinking, you're not going to say it to me, but you're thinking it, so I'll just tell it for you. You're thinking, there's no way I can save anything. You don't know my situation, right? Everybody else can do it, but I can't, because there's just no way. Listen, for most people, 99.9% of us, that's not true. You know why? Because I know you can save $1. Some of you can save $5. Maybe a month, I don't know. Some of us can save more. You could save something. Do something. Save something. The only people who struggle with this are those who physically can't work for various reasons. And so they're not able to do that first one, or all you can. And so it's very difficult for them to save all you can. If that's in your situation, I'm not talking about you. Some people just simply need to get to work. Some of us need to track where our money's going, because we have no idea. And if we realize that we could do something about it because we're not tracking it, we don't know, and so it gets wasted. If you're physically capable to work, I'm smiling, so make sure you see this, okay? You need to get off your blessed assurance and get to work. For others, maybe you need to change, how you're managing your spending. For some of us, we need, to get that earn all you can, save all your thing going. Some of us need to learn to give more. There are some who claim that what we're talking about, save all you can. There's some that say, oh, that's not really biblical. You're not really, functioning out of faith. You should just trust God and he'll deal with it every day. And like the people in Israel, the wilderness, God took care of them. The thing that you got to remember about the wilderness is they saved every day before Sabbath so they could get through 2 days. So when you have this kind of mentality, I've seen it in churches and Christians, it's kind of like the poverty gospel, When you become a Christian, you should know anything, you should give it all away, you should be poor. Okay, that's the poverty gospel. That's on one side of this equation I'm going to try to build for you. The other side is the idea of the prosperity gospel. You got the poor gospel and you got the prosperity gospel. Neither one of them are right. The prosperity gospel says that if you really believe in God, then you'll give X, Y, and Z ministry with the right pastor, and you'll give him a bunch of money, and then you'll become richer than you ever thought you could be. The pastor will get richer anyway, not you. Pretty soon they'll say, you'll be driving a luxury car and living in a new mansion and going on tropical vacations every month or whatever it is. One is it doesn't work that way. God's never promised that. But more importantly, both of those miss the idea that we are stewards and not owners. Whatever we have that's good in our lives comes down from the Father above. God is not in the business of making us poor. He's not in the business of making us rich. He's in the business of making us holy. Holy is totally committed to God. We find in the Bible that God used people who are very prosperous, who had a lot of money. Abraham was for sure he had. Joseph, King David, King Solomon, Matthew being a tax collector, Lydia, she had her own business. They had a lot of money and God used them. There's also people in the scripture like Job who lost it all, or the Apostle Paul who had experiences of poverty and wealth, and he looked at both of them and at different points in his life. God can use, it's not a matter of the size of your pile, it's a matter of your faithfulness. Perhaps the question is not how much money should we have, rather, how should we manage the money that God's given us already? How do we take care of it? Taking care of our families, helping other people, giving to the mission. How can we be faithful with whatever pile that God's given us? As you consider your stewardship, again, it's not the size of your pile, it's the faithfulness of how you handle it that matters. So, what are we going to do? Well, if you're like me, the first thing you might want to do, the first thing you might do, is you look back and realize how badly you've blown it. I mean, I can't believe how badly I've blown this stuff. And again, this is not a series about making you feel guilty. That's not what it is. If you've messed up in the past, face it, confess it to Jesus. Jesus said he'll forgive you and cleanse you of all righteousness. Get up and get going again. Don't let that define you. You can be a new person today. Don't wallow in it. Your better tomorrow starts today. So what are we going to do? We're going to earn all we can. We're going to save all we can. We're going to give all we can. Some of us, again, will need to increase our self-control. Maybe that's something we got to focus on. Maybe that's a struggle, and you're kind of instant gratification, and it's easy to get into our world and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to work on the self-control thing. I'm going to do what's right, even when I don't feel like it. I'm going to say no now so I can save, and I can say yes later. Maybe that's where you're at. Maybe that's your next step. I don't know. Some of us, maybe your next step is you're going to create a plan, you know? You got to start telling where your money to go rather than just let it go. So you're going to be more effective that way. Some of us, we need to get on that emergency fund right away. Because that next broken thing, Murphy's coming to your house, whether you like it or not, and you got to be ready. So get that thing going, because that is going to happen. It's not a matter of when. It's a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And then maybe for some of us, we need to get that debt snowball going, you know? We need to slay that debt monster in it because it's eating your life. And so the snowball is the best way that I know of to get at that. Maybe some of that's your next step. Maybe that's what you got to do. I don't know what it is for you. You guys can come on up. I encourage you that whatever it is, figure it out. Whatever it is, don't put it off to tomorrow, because that's the problem, right? So, again, I'm smiling. Ready? Okay, put your big boy pants on and get to work. Face it, you know, get after it, because tomorrow can be better if you become a better steward today. That's how it works. It takes time, but every single one of us can take wherever we are and we can go to the next level, whatever that is. Now, there's one qualification here, okay? And that is, if you're married, this is a joint venture. Don't come to your spouse and go, I figured it all out. You lay the plan on, this is what we're doing, and never talked about it. That's a really bad idea, okay? You got to work together. This is where you talk about it, you fight about it a little, you know, because you're not necessarily going to agree. You work it out, you compromise here, and someone wins this time, that whole thing, so that when you stand up and you're ready to work the plan, you're together working the plan, okay? So if you're married, that's important. I don't know what your next step is. You do. Don't delay. Don't put it off till tomorrow. Do it now. Whatever it is. Let me pray for you. Father, I thank you for how much you care about us. I thank you for the wisdom literature in Scripture. It tells us how best to live. God, you know, I just want to say again, I've been foolish in my past with this stuff. We ask your forgiveness for that. We don't want to be that way anymore. So God, help us. We got some steps. Help us to go do it. Go after it. Doesn't matter the size of our pile. It matters our faithfulness. So Father, help us. Give us wisdom. Give us favor. God, as you see us being faithful, we ask that you would help us get over these things and make our pile bigger so that we can do more for you. So God, come, work in our hearts and our minds. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.